Hi there, welcome to the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. I'm Nat Ryan. Today in the kitchen I'm going to be showing you how to make a classic recipe for pound cake. But in our case we're going to make the pound cake gluten-free and dairy-free. It's absolutely delicious and will remind you very much of the traditional pound cake. So let's get started. So after you preheat your oven, you're going to want to grease and flour your loaf pan. Even if your pan is a nonstick pan, you're going to need to grease and flour it because the batter for the pound cake is quite sticky. If you don't grease and flour it, it will stick to your pan for sure. Okay, so I've done the greasing part, and now we're going to flour it. And just take a bit of gluten-free 1-to-1 flour blend and just flour the pan with that. And I just like to, kind of pound on it to get it. There we go, all done. We're going to set that aside. So in a bowl, I'm going to mix together some gluten-free 1-to-1 flour blend. And to that, we're going to add some baking powder and some salt. And I like to use a whisk for this. We want to keep it nice and light and fluffy with these dry ingredients. So using a whisk here is really good. And then what we're going to do is just give that a light whisking together. And then we're going to set it aside here. Okay, so that's done. Now in a big bowl, we're going to take some margarine. Could be vegan margarine. Now you may want to soften it a little bit, but don't soften it for too long because if you do that, it gets way too soft. So I've using mine today right out of the fridge, okay? So even if you forget to soften it or whatnot, you could still use it. And then we're going to add sugar to that. And you're going to use a hand mixer, or if you have a stand mixer, you can also use the stand mixer for this and mix up your ingredients with that. But you really do need some kind of electric mixer because it's a lot more efficient to do. So we're going to mix the margarine and the sugar together, and then I'm just kind of like putting it together, scraping down the sides a bit. And then I'm going to have another go with the electric mixer here with my hand mixer. I don't have a stand mixer right now, so I like getting things into things with my hands anyway. So here we go. So now we've done the margarine and sugar together. I'm just going to kind of scrape down my sides again with my spatula. And now we're going to put in 4 eggs, but we're going to do them one at a time. So number 1 egg goes in. And there it is. And then we're going to get the electric mixer again and mix that in. So here we go. Let that run. And you may have noticed that you can't hear my electric mixer. That's because I purposely put it on no sound to do the video. And now I'm speaking into my microphone to tell you what I was doing with this. But otherwise it would have been too loud. You wouldn't have been able to hear me. So that's number 1 egg. So what we try to do is take the spatula and scrape down the sides of the bowl in between each addition. And you would do that even with the stand mixer as well, by the way. Stop it, scrape down the sides, and before adding your next egg. So here's egg number 2 going in. And there we go, let it rip now, okay? See, so if I had the actual sound on my video when I was recording, you wouldn't have been able to hear my voice at all, and it would just be the whirling of this thing because it's quite loud. So okay, so there's egg number 2. Okay, and I just try to get the sides up to the sides a little bit, so you might see me going kind of semi like sideways there a little bit just to get the sides. Okay, so that was egg number 2 again. I'll get my cord out of the way here. It's a silly thing. Okay. And scrape down the sides again. See, that's getting really nice and light and fluffy, right? So it might have been a concern at the beginning. Okay, egg number 3 going in. So, I think I dropped a shell there, but that's okay. We got it. Okay, so here we go. Whipping that in. And we're just going to make sure that, see how light and fluffy that's getting now? So if you were concerned that margarine was a little too tough at first, it mixes in beautifully later. Everything kind of warms up with this anyway. Margarine tends to, when when it softens, tends to soften pretty. Okay, there's my egg number 4. I think you may notice that I forgot something. I forgot to scrape down the sides in between those 2 eggs. Not to worry though, if you do, you can always make up for that later when you'll see in the video here. I'll make up for it later. But yes, so you can see where if you're concerned about the margarine having been too tough at first, it's going to work beautifully anyway. Margarine, when it softens, really softens, it gets oily, and not in the same way that butter does when it softens and warms up. So you got to be really careful not to soften margarine too much. Okay, and there we go. Last time, see, I just decided to scrape down after egg number 4 and give it an extra whirl. So there we go. And we're giving that extra whirl after all our eggs are in there. And just about there. Here we go, almost done. It's kind of satisfying too, and you can just feel it coming together. And there we go. Okay, turn that off. And now, silly cord. Scrape one more, well, not one more time. If I said it was one more time, I'd be lying. So there's the eggs in. Now we're going to put in some dairy-free yogurt. So I'm using a coconut yogurt today, but there is other forms of dairy-free yogurt, and like oat yogurt, and then oat milk yogurt, I should say. And that was vanilla. It's a clear vanilla that I put in there as well. And had to adjust my camera there, so there's a little wobble there. That was what it was. And now we're giving those a whirl in there. And what ends up happening, that yogurt gives the pound cake a lot of moistness. That it really adds a nice moistness to it. And it also sort of mimics the dairy a little bit more that you would normally have in these things. So it helps with that as well. And so that's in there. And now we're going to see that flour mixture that we had. I'm going to put that right in the bowl with it. Just whack it all in there at once is fine. No need to go a little bit at a time here. You can just put it all in at once for this part. And we can give it a really good mix here. And I'm probably going to stop halfway through mixing these and this up and give it a scrape down on the bowl again. Very likely going to do that. Yep, here I go. And yeah, so get the scrape down. Alrighty, and then I'm going to go one more time with this. One more time. And probably one more scrape down as well. You can never scrape down the sides of the bowl and and too much, because you want to make sure everything gets incorporated. Don't want to leave a whole bunch of ingredients down the side for sure. And so there we go. I'm going to give it one more scrape down of the bowl. So that's our batter. All done. So we're going to put that batter, we're going to pour it right into that prepared pan. So in she goes. And there we have it. Okay, let me just get this bowl, okay, a little bit off that. Put the bowl aside, and we're just going to smooth it at the top. And there we have it. It's all smooth at the top. Okay, so after all the mixing and everything, we're going to put it in the oven for about 40 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do now. Just put it in an oven that has been preheated. And it's in a preheated oven, and it should bake for about 40 minutes. Okay, so once you've baked it for about 40 minutes, we're going to check it, take it out, and check it using a, I have this little cupcake checker or cake checker. And what I like to do is to poke it in a diagonal. So not straight down, in a diagonal. And you're going to check the end to make sure that there's no gobbledygook on there. If it's gunky in any way, then it's not finished. This came out very dry, and so this is ready, and then we're just going to let this cool for about 10 to 15 minutes before we take it out of the pan. And the other thing I want to tell you about is that once you do it in a diagonal fashion, that's fine. But you're also going to want to take it straight down and put it straight down the center. Now, when I did that the first time, it came out really gunky. So I had to put my pound cake back in the oven for about 10 minutes, and it came out really clean now. And so that center of that is done. Now, what alerted me to that is, if you can see that it's got like a ridge in the center and it sort of sunk a little bit, and that indicated to me that the center of that wasn't cooked. So I'm glad I checked the center, going straight down in it, and it was really soft and gunky in there. So I put it in for an extra 10 minutes, and I've now brought it out, tested it straight down, and it comes out clean. So now we're going to let that cool off for 10 to 15 minutes. So after it's cooled, you're going to turn it out onto a rack to cool completely before you slice it. Now, I sliced a piece off the end so that I could show you, and you can see how nice that is. You can see the crumb. It is pretty close, but that's what pound cake's all about. But it does have a nice crumb. And I'm serving it here with some Cocoa Whip, which is kind of like a frozen whipped cream that has no dairy in it. So I'm serving it with that. You can have it with fruit, and it's absolutely delicious. And I hope you enjoy it. And I'm so glad that you came to visit me here at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. See you next time.